Hello guys, welcome to my vlog. In this video, I will share my reflection on Turintira and Philippine source book. So, let's start.
An introduction to Philippine historiography, sources and discourses, and the mode of reflection I use is mirroring. In the first chapter of discussion, I have learned that finding the truth about an introduction to the Philippine historiography is very hard because historians must be careful and cautious in collecting data and resources from the past, and they also undergo and process and the methods where historians must filter every single details about the sources they get and make sure that its content is not biased and concern not only for the victors but also recognize all people regarding their position in life for contributing to the history. I believe that history is inescapable. It studies the past and the legacies of the past in the present. I saw many historians participating in our country to write the history of the Philippines using discourse that will privilege the Filipinos. The study of history became possible with the development of writing. Before, writing is a form of art where historians express their knowledge. The different insight of writers about history help people to know more about it. Historians continue to use tradition as one of the sources of history. Oral tradition helps the historian to determine historical trends and events. Through the comparison of several of tradition, the historian can eliminate biases, inconsistencies, or inaccuracies in the writing records they are using to come out with an accurate historical account of the past. The arrival in the Philippine waters of Ferdinand Magellan on March 17, 1521 is traditionally dated as the beginning of the Spanish period. Back then, the writings of the early friars were basically missionary history. A missionary is a member of a religious group sent into an area to promote their faith or perform ministries of service such as education, literacy, social justice, healthcare, and economic development. The accounts of Spanish friars were focused on the Spanish history of the Philippines, especially their missionary experience in the country. Some of the friars from this period made a great contribution in the development of Philippine historiography. Overall, there are many important of studying history, especially an introduction to the Philippine historiography, like to know identification or the organization of the country and its people, discovering its culture, and to overview the progress or development of the nation, and many more. We can conclude that learning history can make us appreciative, knowledgeable, respective, and can prepare us in terms of facing problems in the current and future generation in terms of improving the economy by innovating significant resources for a better community that we can gather. Next is the history of the Philippine Island. And mode of reflection I use is mirroring again. I'm also impressed by Antonio de Morga because he was able to write the story of the Philippine Islands. In my 2 hours of reading the article, my knowledge has increased. There are also that countries that want to seize the islands in the Philippines. The arrival of the Spaniards marks the beginning of the written record of the Philippine island. Not the country didn't already have a story, culture, and literature. However, in their religious favor, and the Spaniards destroyed the previous records to the greatest extent feasible. As a result, most of what is known about the island prior to the Spanish conquest, and there is still plenty to learn, comes from the archives of the other countries that had contact with them. By the time the Spaniards arrived on the islands, the Filipino had evolved a separate culture and way of life that suited and satisfied them. They possess a calendar with and measure, a writing system, some illegal aspects, certain religious concept with Hindu and Mohammedan influences, and some metallurgy, pottery making, and weaving skills. But some selfish people just had to see some nation freedom for their own selfish belief and benefit, at least to recognize every contribution everyone has given to create our past is a good start to retell our story. Other things like the total liberation of the people, correcting details from the points of view of the locals and etc. are the things that argue our historian to rewrite our history that actually making sense up to this day for us learners and us Filipino to learn from our past. Next is the Manunggal jar, and the mode of reduction I use is mirroring. The Manunggal jar discussed was found by Dr. Robert B. Fox and Miguel Antonio in 1962. The Manunggal jar was a great example for the Filipino people, imagination and sense of artistry. Based on the person who tours us in National Museum, the Manunggal jar was made by an ingenious artist who is good at making pots. It was also considered an artifact that reflected the role of water sources such as ocean, lakes, and rivers as a means of travel, commerce, and contact during the period of the ancestors of the region. What I observed on the pot was the two human images are sailing a boat positioned on the top of the cover of the jar, and the two human images are believed to symbolize two souls on the journey to the afterlife. If Manunggal jar was discovered by late 1960s and it dated by the new stone and age, I think it's already hundreds of years. The use of Manunggal jar is a burial jar excavated at Lipon Point and Palawan, Philippines from a Neolithic burial site in the Manunggal cave of the Tabon Caves. What Manunggal jar tells us about life in the past and these people before are talented and very good in making crafts. Theory works always symbolize something and have a meaning on it. It also represents the religious value of our ancestors. It tells how spirit on board ships across the rivers and ocean go to the next life. For me, this object comes directly from the past because there's a lot of information about it and also declared as a craft from long time ago. This artifact was the fact that Filipinos are natural explorers. The Filipino ideals of love for one, humanity, and nationalism were also represented in the. Next is the Laguna copper plate. The mode of reflection I use is microscoping. In this article, Philippine historians believe that is less than 500 years old. If we use the first established calendar dated document recovered within the boundaries Indonesia and Philippines. Laguna copper plate is one of the oldest documents found in the Philippine archipelago, specifically in Panaytayan, Laguna. On April 16, 1990, it is 20 cm thin lines of finely written characters on stone or thin sheet of made from copper. At first, according to Postman, he thought that this inscription was from Indonesia because of the way it has been written, and it has just one of the fake document like the other ones, but when it has been proven to be a legit document of the Philippines, he decided to call it the Laguna Copper Plate Inscription, or LCI for short. The LCI bears the date of April 21, 900 AD, before the arrival of different colonizer. If the inscription was written in Old Malay form on its for Filipinos, then it means that already have an interconnection with other Asian countries. According to this article, LCI appears to be a semi-official certificate of acquittal for debt incurred by person in high office, together with his whole family or all relatives and descendants. This debt should be paid out of gold, which is apparently still unpaid. That is what said on the inscription. Payment should be in the form of gold, meaning Filipino ancestors who are in the top social class or maharlika do possess gold in their times. Aside from this, slaves also exist on the time only on the period of colonialization. The act of slavery was being implemented to those people who are in the lower class called alipin. They are the ones who are not able to pay their debts, so that is collateral they will become slave. This article explained the Filipino nation was already civilized country before the arrival of colonizer. Moreover, the Laguna copper plate is a solid evidence and proof of our own concept of nation which had been kept hidden to us by the generation. Next is duties of the Katipunan of the Sun of the people Kikiki, and the mode of reflection I use is mirroring. This article, Andres Bonifacio composed the decalogue of the duties of the Sun of people to guide the members of Kikiki, kataas-kataasang, kagalangan ang katipunan ng mga anak ng bayan. It was a very valuable learning experience for me to be able to apply the concept learned in the article and online to the physical people we encountered. It offers a current generation perspective on how this programming contributed to comprehending our past and how it influenced the present. The report teaches us how to be real Filipinos through our words and deeds. Each lesson focuses on a current element of a person's life and acts as a guide on how to live a meaningful life for every Filipino. People learn about duties of the Katipunan of the Sun of the People, a Philippine revolutionary group whose major objective was achieve independence from Spain development. Despite this, Filipino were intellectual and moral revolutionaries seeking the country's independence. It acts as a daily reminder of what our soldiers went through only to save our nation from the cruel hands of invaders. The Philippine liberty is priceless. As importantly, the duties of the Katipunan of the Sun of the People reminds us the significance of remembering Filipinos who contributed significantly to the freedom we enjoy today. This heroic deed should be cherished in the same way that we cherish the gift of sovereignty. This teaching of the duties of the Katipunan of the Sun of the People are opposed to this, and I believe that we should study and use their teaching in our nation to promote peace and harmony in our surrounding, since by keeping those teachings in mind, we may avoid turmoil in our society. I truly enjoyed reading the rest of the article. This allowed me to reflect critically and honestly on the way I learned in my reading of the article. I learned something about what the duties of the Sun of the People are for, but I don't understand the true meaning and effect they have. Next is a new species of Homo in the late Pleistocene of the Philippines, and the mode of reflection I use is microscoping. This article was very intriguing and interesting for me. As a student, it's always very fun to learn further about the origins of our species. This class helped cover a lot of different topics from evolution to the state of human remains. The topic were covered well, and there was only one topic that perplexed me. The confusing thing to me was the difference between Old World and New World apes. Though he explained it very well, this topic is very interesting to me, and so I would like to learn more exactly where, when and how these apes diverged and stopped evolving is fascinating to me. For me, the best moment of this article was learning about the story of hominin and the people who discovered it. An analysis of the foot bone suggested that belonged to the genus Homo, but to which species was unclear. Here they reported the discovery of 12 additional hominid elements, of which at least 3 individuals were found in the same stratigraphic layer as the Callow Cave metatarsal discovery. There are specimens display combination of primitive and derived morphological feature that is different from the combination of feature found in the other species in the genus Homo, including Homo florensis and Homo sapiens, and warrants the attribution to a new species which name a Homo luzonensis. It also helps historians understand the people and their decision better that this particular part of human evolution and adaptation was very interesting to me. If I was tutor, tasked with the responsibility of explaining human evolution, this class would be indispensably useful. I would begin by explaining our hominid ancestors and their habits, behavior, and lifestyle. This would be necessary because it would help explain the divergence that would occur the evolutionary and why we are similar to many primates, and I'd like to know everything about the whole story in this article, and I'd like to learn about the old and new world. Next is costume of the Tagalog. On the mode of reflection I use is microscoping. Costume of the Tagalog was among the many colonial texts written during the Spanish colonial period and was authored by Fray Juan de Plasencia. He was a Spanish missionary from the Franciscan order of Friars who came in the Philippines around 1578 for the purpose of preaching the good news of Christianity and convert the pagan natives into Catholicism. Unlike other abusive friars, he lived a life free of luxury and always stood with his people, being their defender and voice in times of oppression. He studied their language and understood their custom and beliefs. The production of the Doctrina Christiana as the first book to be printed in the Philippine island is attributed to him, along with other books that tackled the pre-colonial era of the Philippines. It was by the order of the King of Spain that Fray de Plasencia documented the practices and tradition of these natives. The the text of this historical document was divided in two parts. The first chapter tackled the earliest recorded legal system of the country, detailing the social relationship of the Tagalogs and their form of government. It discussed the barangay as the smallest unit of the society, which is governed by dato for the chief, and the people being divided into three distinct social classes, the Maginoo and the Maharlika and the Alipin. It elaborated on the origin of these social classes and the different rights to ownership of properties and privilege to marriage and inheritance. Each of them entailed the justice system of this time, which even included a commentary as to what kind of leader the datus were and what form of leadership the people desired from her. Plasencia seen the need for the reform of this kind of government to recognize the system among its community. Meanwhile, the second section revolved around the pre-colonial religion and beliefs of the people, preliminary their form of worship. It showed the early Filipinos practiced idolatry by sculpting given image to which the inbo offerings, as well as paganism, venerating Bathala alongside the sun, the moon, the stars, the animals, and other goddesses, and serve different purposes for them. They believe in certain superstition and divination to which they are aligned their daily undertaking. They also have varying practices of burying the dead, but a single concept remains for heaven and hell. Different types of prayers were also introduced and discussed together with various ghosts and phantoms they believe to be true and existing. After reading the text, I came to realize that the Philippines went through so much information to end up with the kind of society we're having at the present. It led me to appreciate the cultural integration which uplifted and kept the uniqueness of the Filipino culture, giving us a distinct Filipino identity that we live for right now. Next is our aim in La Solidaridad, and the mode of reflection I use is microscoping. In a nation whose people are imbued with patriotism, they must go out and speak for the inarticulate and enslaved. Thus a publication was used to call for social and political reform. It was February 15, 1889, an article revealing our aims in the La Solidaridad, a band of unity among Filipino liberals and ilustrados. It was La Solidaridad regarded as a fundamental right of a nation deprived of democracy and a people unified to expose the injustice on Filipino under the colonial regime of Spain. To fight for separation, to oppose the division, and to agree on political and social progress were the aims of the propaganda. The dissemination of liberal ideas and information was to intensify realization and to appeal to notice and prejudice. The Filipino intellectuals were agitated not by the thirst of dependence but of equality. It was equally essential that through divulgence with the intent of making solution and reflection of reality will lead to a reasonable democracy, as emphasized the all touted as our humble heroes. Our country resisted colonial rule to bureaucracy, to the injustice of political freedom. Because of the Spaniards established their culture and own rules toward us, yet the position of the firm principle are distorting it for influence and integrity. However, they might have given the Ilustrados the opportunities to education, but Ilustrados attending European universities saw the injustice and they only wanted the freedom to be extended. In the archipelago, they only wanted equality. On the other hand, the role of our history as being studied would probably awaken our unconscious being to also have our share in making our current state embrace its acquired freedom from our reformists. The power of the priest now is paved as an avenue for truth and justice in the pursuit of connection and ideas, making solution a means to freedom.